Jenny! So today I am going to be doing my February wrap-up. I read 6 books and 1 graphic novel, so I'm very happy with how much I read this month. First book was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I'm sure a lot of people know what this is about. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the writing. I loved all the characters. I didn't cry at the end. I had like tears welling up in my eyes, but I was more like angry about how it ended, so I didn't end up actually crying any tears. But the ending was really sad, and this might seem dumb, but like it didn't end the way I expected it to. Like I feel like from the movie trailer and everything, you kind of know how it's gonna end. But I didn't think it was going to end in that way, if you know what I'm saying. I'm being very vague because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but nonetheless, I really enjoyed this book, and I did try to read the sequel after you, but I just didn't like where the story was going, so I ended up DNFing that. Then I read The Sacrifice of Sunshine Girl by Paige Mackenzie, and this is the 3rd book in the Haunting of Sunshine Girl trilogy. I read the first 2 books and I absolutely loved them, so I DM'd the author on Twitter and asked her who I would have to contact to possibly get an ARC for the 3rd one, because I thought I'd have to go through like her publisher or something, but she was so kind and she said she had a couple of extra ones, so she sent me one and she signed it and everything. I'm going to have a full review of this up on my channel in a few weeks. It comes out on April 4th, so if you want to learn more of my thoughts on this, you can watch that review. But I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. Story, the characters, the writing, everything about this book, I just love it so much. Then I picked up this graphic novel, or I don't know if it's a comic book, I'm really not sure how to tell the difference exactly, but it is Chewbacca. This is a Star Wars graphic novel or comic book, I'm not sure, just because it is really thin, so I feel like it's more of a comic book. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I did like it. I read it in like a half hour because obviously it follows Chewbacca, who doesn't speak English, so a lot of the dialogue and stuff you could just kind of like skim over because he wasn't saying much. I thought it was a really cute story. I think it would have been a little bit better if there was another character from like the main Star Wars movies in this instead of just Chewbacca, just because he doesn't talk that much. Nonetheless, I did enjoy it, so that was the 3rd book that I read this month. The next book I picked up was By Your Side by Casey West. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and it follows a girl called Autumn who ends up accidentally getting locked in the library with this other boy who she doesn't really know much about him, but he kind of has a bad reputation. He went to juvie a couple years back, but being stuck in a library with him kind of forces them to talk to each other and learn a bit more about each other. I really enjoyed this book. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably know that I absolutely love all of Casey West's books. I just love her writing and everything. Even though I did really like it, I'd have to say that this is probably my least favorite one. I mean, I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars, so it's still a really good book, but it was probably my least favorite Casey West book. The next 3 books, or the last 3 books actually, I all read for the Time Hopathon, which was a readathon that I co-hosted with a couple other booktubers. I'll leave a link to my announcement video up in the corner if you want to learn a bit more about it. So the challenges for the readathon focus on different sort of time periods. So the first book that I read was The Program by Suzanne Young. So this completed the challenge of reading a dystopian book or a book set in the future. So The Program follows a girl called Sloane who lives in this dystopian world where basically suicide has become such this big epidemic because people started taking like so many antidepressants that the body started like forming an immunity to them, so they didn't work anymore. So I think it was something like 1 in every 3 teens commits suicide. So in this dystopian sort of world, any teen that shows any sign of like depression or sadness is sent to the program. Anybody who goes to the program comes back really different. Basically, they have like most of their memories wiped. Anything that is related to why they were depressed or sad is erased from their memory. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars because I just want to make this clear that I rate my books based off of like enjoyment and like entertainment and stuff like that, and this does deal with suicide and self-harm, so if that's triggering for you, I would not recommend reading this book. It's not for me, but it still doesn't make it an easy book to read about. Like, it's a very serious topic, so it wasn't very enjoyable to read, if you know what I mean. So that's why I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. But if I was doing it on like a technical rating, I would give it probably 4 or 5 stars because I did think it was written really well. It's a really good story. It really makes you think. Reading this book was just like really frustrating. Like, I was so frustrated with this world and what these people were doing, because it's kind of like this horrible cycle where, you know, teenagers are so afraid of being sent to the program that they become suicidal. So it's like a horrible vicious cycle, and it was just so frustrating to read about. Nonetheless, I think it was a really good book, and I am planning on reading the sequel, which I believe is called The Treatment. The next book that I read completed the challenge of reading one of our childhood recommendations. So all of the hosts recommended a different childhood book, and I read my own recommendation. We said we could do that, so that's what we did. So that was The Trolls by Polly Horvath. I've spoken about this book a lot on my channel, so for like the millionth time, I'm going to explain to you the plot of this book. So it's basically about these 3 children called Pee-wee, Melissa, and Amanda, and their parents are like going away for the weekend, so they have their father's sister, Aunt Sally, come and stay with the kids for the weekend. And when she's there, Aunt Sally is like really strange, and she tells them a bunch of these stories from when she was a child with their dad and everything. They're just these really odd stories, and the 3 kids are not really sure if they're true or not. Obviously this was a reread for me since I read it when I was younger. I absolutely loved it when I was younger, and I absolutely loved it now. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I just think it's such a cute story, and you should definitely pick it up if you just want a light middle grade read. I feel like people who enjoy a series of unfortunate events where the story is just kind of like really strange, you would enjoy this book as well. Then the final book that I read this month completed the challenge of reading a book released in 2016, and that was Sanctuary's Fiend by A. Lynch, and this was sent to me for review from the author. I gave this book 1.5 out of 5 stars. I really did not enjoy it, which is never something that I like to do when I'm sent a book for review. I hate giving books bad ratings, but I just really did not enjoy this book. I also have a review for this book. I'm not sure if I've posted it yet or not, so if I did, I'll link it up in the corner as well. So those were all of the books that I read in February. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what your favorite book was that you read in February. My favorite one was probably Me Before You. I just absolutely loved that book. So that is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! I read 6 books and 1 graphic novel. The next book focuses, or what am I saying?